Um, I believe we have a quorum now, correct?
That is correct.
Sorry I was late.
And
It's all
we
right.
appreciate you
Another
joining
call.
us.
Bree has joined us as well.
Might as well start the recording.
Yes, it's started.
All right. We'll call the October 6, 2022 Advisory Committee meeting to order. The first order of business will be the approval of the September 21st Advisory Committee minutes. Has everyone had the opportunity to review minutes?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Greg.
Motion, thank you, Greg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah Lynn. All those in favor, by raising your hand, saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now we can jump into the review of the
Actually-
5-year solid waste plan. Yes,
Uh,
Sarah.
I was going to suggest that in the old business section where it makes reference to state representatives, I think that could easily be misread to mean elected officials. And I think we could say that more clearly.
Please clarify where are you discussing?
Under old business, and it says, let me bring it back up. It says, Pete will check with the state representatives again about these projections. And even though we all know what he means, you could easily take that to mean elected officials as opposed to state senators. So I think I would say Division of Waste Management or Division of Waste, whatever they call themselves. It used to be Division of Waste Management, DWM officials. Just to clarify, we're not checking with politicians.
All right, can we make that change, Karen?
Yes, I can do that.
Does anyone object to that change?
No,
Sorry, I didn't bring it up earlier.
sounds reasonable. Thanks.
With that, we'll make that modification. I think that'll be touched on tonight as well. Correct, Pete?
Yes.
Very good. Would you like to proceed with the review of the 5-year plan?
Sure. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Can we make it bigger or you do that?
I can.
I just did. That's okay. I got it. Thanks.
Okay. So from the last meeting that we had, I'm just going to kind of go through what we had discussed as far as some changes goes. And the first section was the waste projections. And I did not go back to the state Division of Solid Waste. What I did was I went back to Bob Schindler, who was around when a lot of these projections were made in the past. And I also looked up old plans. And we discussed it for quite some time and feel like that the state's form is not doing what it should be doing. So the key here was provide the solid waste management area population and municipal solid waste disposal projections for 5, 10, and 20 years in the future. The way that they conducted this did not do that. So what we did, and knowing that the state had said that we can modify these the way that we wanted to, we readjusted this to the red section. So they had this here, which was misleading because it was 2028 to 2032, which is a 5-year period. And we put in the projection for that 5-year period. And then from 23 to 32, that made that number 8,461,000, which makes much more sense. And we did the same under the next section from 2023 to 2043, of 18 million tons, 385,000. So I think that that is actually what is needed. And I don't think that there would be any problem for us to edit the plan to do this. So what's people's thoughts on this?
I'm confused.
You're confused?
Yeah,
Okay.
these are not cumulative totals. These are annual numbers, correct?
When you say these are cumulative here, these are 5-year increments.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, if it says tons, I would read this to say we're going to generate this volume over the course of the 5-year period or the 10 years or the 20 years. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't mean, for example, in the very first box, 23 to 27, you don't mean 4+ million per year. You mean that over the course of the 5 years, we're going to generate on the order of 800,000 tons per year, correct?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Then I need to look at it a little longer to make sure I think it's clear.
This is actually the way that they did it in previous plans.
This can be amended on an annual basis, correct, Pete?
This section cannot. The next section down here, which is total capacity authorized, that can change. And without a host community agreement, and this is just Jefferson County. No, this says everything. After we talked with Bob and I and Karen, we came up with 10 million tons over a 10-year period planning cycle. And, without that host agreement that spells that out, according to the state, we can change this at any time. We don't even have to wait till annually. We can change it at any time. But 10,000 tons gives plenty of space for that time cycle. But these are the projections, and I guess we can change it. And I don't guess we couldn't change it, but I don't know why we would.
Actually, wasn't the concern that the way they had stated the numbers, it looked almost impossible? I think Mr. Cohen brought it up in the fact that it accelerated so much during the years subsequent to this that it wasn't rational.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the state's chart.
One problem I'm having is the inconsistent labeling. Don't forget. And you emailed her this.
What's inconsistent?
Well, I'm assuming that I'm supposed to read the first box as the 5-year projection. The other two at least say 10-year and 20-year. But the fact that there are two in there, the labeling for the middle and the right boxes, I don't understand what we're trying to say, what these two numbers represent. It's just pretty confusing.
1 year, 5 year, and 10 year.
Well, the first obvious question is why do we have two entries in the middle and the right boxes? I don't see that as being explained. And it kind of begs the question, why doesn't the left box have a similar in red 5-year waste projection? But somewhere we need to explain why there are two sets of numbers. To say nothing of the issue of the numbers getting bigger instead of smaller.
Well, I would say in the middle box, we have, well, in the first box, we have from 23 to 27. Middle box, we have generation from 28 to 32.
sorry.
And go ahead, Pete, I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead with your explanation. I'll pull this up in just a moment.
We have 28 to 32, but then at the bottom, we have a cumulative total for the years 23 through 32 of 8,461,718 tons. And
So
then-
you've added the two, I'm now noticing.
Yes.
Okay, thank
And then
you.
from 32 or 33 to 37, another 4.6 million tons roughly. And that gives us a total over 20 years of 18,385,622 tons in generation. Is that correct, Pete?
I don't think the math is here.
So
I'm sorry, it's loud where I am. I'm having to have some roof repair. I think the years are wrong. I think that's where the math's not adding up. 10 years, you have 2023 to 2032. Wouldn't that be 33?
Well, I think what they're saying is the red is a running total. But I don't think the math's quite there, but I'm testing it.
On 28 to 32, that's not 5 years.
let me show this real quick.
Oh yeah, she's right.
It depends how it's inclusive or exclusive. The year.
Mhm.
This is what they provided us.
Go back to your previous slide, Pete. Four point six, 696.
It depends, like 23 to 32 could be 10 years if that's inclusive, but then the next column to the right says 23 to 43 is 20 years, so something's inconsistent there. It should be 23 to 42 then, or the other one should be 30, it depends what year you're counting.
I would. This came from the black came from the state's original form, but I agree that this should be the 33 and consistent with the population projection.
Well, and the other thing that's not clear to me is, are we attempting to take a base rate and apply it to the population growth, or is that already built into these numbers?
It is 5. I think it came out to 5.1 pounds
Person per day?
person. Yeah, it that's how they had calculated it.
Pete, are you adding another 4.6 million from 37, let's say 2038 to 2043?
Yes, that's according to what they gave us. (2033 to 2037) was 8. That's where I'm off. So going back to this form again, that number should be here. It said it still doesn't work with what the form they gave us.
What are these numbers used for?
It's so that we can see how much waste that we're going to generate. It's required of us to generate these totals for the next 20 years so that we can plan for our disposal. We have to ensure that we have enough space.
It seems to me that we've got to label this stuff more clearly. But first, we just got to figure out what the math is.
Can we do that here and now, or does it have to be done offline?
We need to do it.
You can do it here now.
Okay.
So maybe what we need to do is just, can we gut it and start over and walk ourselves through it?
Wouldn't it first start with the first line? If the projections are 5, 10, and 20 years, then I think first thing, then we would want to line up the right dates for 5, 10, and 20 years, because we've already said
Thank you.
that, so we can make sure, are we including the years that's mentioned, or is it the following years? So I think that, because that's inconsistent. So that's the first thing. And then after that, I think we can start from there.
I was unable to hear it.
Yeah, he's low.
Pete,
I was
you
saying
had
we
the
can-
tonnage in year one or in box one with the top tonnage in year two or in box two, you equal the second set of numbers that you have in box two of 8,461,718 tons. Then you add in top number of box three of 8,940,000. 238. You get 17,401,956. That then adds in another 8,900,000 tons from 38 to 43, correct? It's just the accumulation of tonnage over the year spans.
You're right. The accumulation, if you go by this number, and this number is 17,401,000 tons.
But does that include then the bottom number in box three rolls out all the way to 2043? We don't have enough tonnage in there to carry us from 38 to 43.
So we got I'm having to go back and look at it again. I'm trying to follow, guys. 23 to 27, 4 million tons. 28, should this be 33?
32, 28 to 32. Well, no, you're right. It should be
That's right,
33.
32. Every 10 years.
That's a 5-year span.
And the
So that's
bottom
another,
will be 33 as well.
And then it would,
yes. So that's another between 5-year period is 4,324,000. And then from 33 to 43,
actually, I think that should be 32, shouldn't it? If we took, if it's an additional 5 years. So you 28, 29, 30, 1 and 2 is 5 years. So it would be 28 to 32, and then it would be 33 to 42 would be 20 years from where you started back here. at
You're right.
23.
so this is,
So that 32, yeah, that would be 32. And then the next one would be 33 to 42. Now, would we change those dates on the headings about those two? So, P, I was asking, would we change the dates and the headings above this? So the first one would be population to 2027, because that would be the 5 years. That would be the population to 2032. And the last one would be population from 20 to 42.
so change this to 27. See, I never even touched the population projections.
And I'm just going from the original line that said that we're talking about increments of 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. So if we follow the first line that said whatever we're doing is based on these increments, then first thing to me should be the date should be right. So we're calculating the right time frames. So now our time frames are right. So if you take 23 to 27, that's 5 years. You have another 5 years that take you out to 32, and 20 years from 23 is 2042.
Okay, so if the time frames are correct,
Which I believe they are now.
and
I
we've
think
got
so too.
41, 43, and then this is a 10-year period. And going by what the state's table says as far as this time frame of 8,940,000, that gives us 17,401. How are we doing there?
When I try to make all this come back to the pounds per person per day, I'm struggling to make this work.
So let's take 810,368.
Where are we? Oh, the population somewhere? Okay. 810. If you divide that, it's easier just to start with the 4,136,735. And if you divide it by 810,368, I get 5.1 tons. If I divide that by 5 years, I'm getting 1 ton. And if I divide that by 365 days, I get well under a pound. I need to answer the door.
No, I agree with that. 5.1 is the right number for the 5-year period according to what the state has given us. What increment that is, I don't know.
So Pete, has the waste per person increased over the last couple of years?
It actually, for Jefferson County, it's actually went down a little bit.
Because I thought that it was somewhere around 4 point something, not 5.1.
They based their figures on what the state of Kentucky was doing.
Okay, that makes sense.
So where are we? Besides befuddled.
So what I broke that down to be was 5.6 pounds per day.
Can I hear your math, please? How you got that?
$810,000 tons, or excuse me, 4,136,000 tons divided by 810,000 in the population comes up to 5.1 tons. Multiply that by 2,000 for pounds. Divided that by 5 years. Divided that by 365 days a year.
What is your 10,000 to 10 factor, please?
That is the 5.1 tons
Times.
converted into pounds.
Good. And then you divided it by,
5 years.
good
So
thinking.
that would be per person is 2,042 pounds per year,
Mm-hmm.
divided by 365 days in a year. It's 5.6 pounds per day.
I keep not getting it, but I trust you if that's what, I mean, that is not a surprising figure to use. What's our actual right now?
That'd be a good question. I would have to take a long time to go figure that out through
Yeah.
our diversion numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we did that all the way out, are we continuing to see growth rather than even flatlining, much less declining?
The state figures are using the same figure throughout.
So flat.
Yep.
Can I take a look at the other slide again?
Yeah. At minimum, we need to explain why there's two sets of numbers. I guess because one's a running total, isn't it? Maybe we could put something like cumulative, comma, 10-year waste projection, and maybe that would make it a little clearer. And do the same on the one on the right.
Do you know what the population is for 2023 or even now?
He's busy. And then 20 in year and 10 in year should be hyphenated. Thank you.
Okay, so you was asking about what the populations are now currently, or say it again?
Yes.
Just based upon census, I would have to go look at our census for this year and its projections. they tell us that where they get their projections is from the Kentucky Data Center, which is at the University of Louisville. That's where their population projections come from. I believe that the state then uses that to generate their waste generation rates.
I think we've done a better job of explaining it now, and it does roll.
Can we move on?
I think this has it myself.
Yes, I'm in favor of moving on.
The next thing we had to do was put the total capacity authorized to date. We don't have a capacity authorized to date because we don't have a host agreement. So therefore, we're starting over. So 10 million tons for this cycle and starting at 0. So the remaining authorized capacity is 10 million tons. Bob and I discussed it. We felt like that was enough space for and plus some for what we anticipate would be the generation.
I think that the parenthetic clarification there behind the 10 million tons for the total capacity authorized to date, you ought to repeat that on the remaining authorized capacity as well to clarify that it's for a decade rather than a year or whatever time period somebody could interpret. Thank you. Have we noted that we are, in theory, working our way to a host agreement? Or is indeed that the case?
It is something that we formed a committee, but we have not started. It is one of our specific actions, negotiate a new community host agreement.
Thank you. There you go.
Anything else on that?
No, I think we've got that covered.
Okay. The next thing was what we discussed in our last meeting. We wanted to put something here for what the impact of closing of the Ralph Avenue site on Boyd Avenue would mean. So this is what I came up with based upon what we talked about.
In the
Pete,
red, Pete, I think you meant to say undetermined versus
Yeah, you got
undefined.
undermined or something.
Oh.
In front of amount.
Freudian. And by waste stream, you mean not just what's removed from that site, but that which used to go to that site on a regular basis is going to be diverted to the landfill, correct?
Yes.
So you do mean waste stream. Overall rate, what overall rate? Diversion?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and say so, please.
Any other comments on that partial paragraph?
Isn't waste stream one word? Or is that my German coming out?
I think waste stream is 2 words.
Okay, that's my German, sorry.
Good. Okay, so I finally got my answer on the question of criminal littering being enforced and civil littering being an issue. And Brandon, you are absolutely right. Criminal littering is not to be enforced. We did change it to a civil offense, and thus I have taken that part out of the plan. So that's how I had amended it.
Who caught that one?
The man that wrote the ordinance, 13120.
Cool.
Okay, if there's no questions there, I believe that takes us to the numbers here. And again, don't put much into these numbers because they're probably wildly inaccurate to a certain extent, depends upon your definition. But license fees, this is what we've got this past year, and I just increased it slightly. I think it was 2% a year. Our proceeds from the sale of recyclables. Nobody knows what recyclables is going to do over those number of years. Last year we did more than 25,000, but I think that would probably be pretty close to our average here lately. So I left it at 25,000 across the board. Litter grant money. This has been our average for the past number of years. This is, yes.
There. Wouldn't there be, I don't really know how this is categorized, but wouldn't there be transfer station fees from the, what they have to pay for their permit, or are you counting that all in permit fees?
It is actually counted in the license fees per KRS 68. That's the,
This is just like revenue we have coming in and we don't charge, like operations fees, or like we're not taking in.
It's the 2% of gross receipts for transfer stations and 5% for landfills. So we count, instead of doing it for a transfer station fee, we do it based upon a license fee.
Okay, cool. I was just curious.
This is here because I didn't know how we should put this in here, but we do have a rollover amount, which really isn't necessarily a revenue. It is I guess it's revenue from past years. So I ended up putting it in here. This is the rollover amount from this past year, but I don't calculate it in the anticipated revenue. It's already been revenue. So I added all of those up with the exception of this to get this for the 5-year period. Now, anticipated expenditures. This is kind of what I've come up with based upon the plan. Capital expenditures, we're in the years 2 and year 3, we're talking about trying to expand our recycling centers, staff centers to accept more material, which would include maybe latex paint, electronics, what was it? Some additional household hazardous waste, and possibly even some beneficial or not beneficial use, but reuse materials that can be dropped off and picked up. Trying to go similar to what we looked at in Monroe County up in Indiana. To do that, it's going to require additional space, probably additional buildings. So I put $500,000 each for those 2 years to cover that. I have no idea what it will actually cost, but that's kind of the number that I just put there. Personnel, I put in what we had budgeted, and then I added 2% per year, which is typically what is added according to the metro.
Even when you consider healthcare cost, for example?
I can't project that out. I know that Metro typically gives a 2% raise, whether or not the benefits package increases or decreases. I don't know that anybody can project that.
Okay, fair enough.
Litter cleanups, it's just a wash. It's 380. Contractual services, I actually increased it if we're going to be accepting more material at our staff centers and to include the marketing firm that we've hired and potentially any kind of consulting fees for studies or improving the material that can go that's being recycled from the construction and demolition waste stream. Supplies, I just kept those the same. Fleet, I just increased them slightly. And that gave us an anticipated cost annually of these numbers. So here we're actually spending more than we have in revenue coming in, but we're also drawing down part of that rollover amount, which is a lot.
So as climate change continues to impact our weather, we're going to have more cleanup cost, I would assume. Do we have anything in here to accommodate that cost?
I think that would be covered in with Metro government more than the waste district, and would
Say that, okay,
recovered FEMA money.
fair enough.
And that's it. That's the only changes. Now, we did talk a little bit about Robinson wrecking. Bob, Bruce and I talked about Robinson wrecking and whether or not that we needed to put a note in here about that. And honestly, we don't have we're not even sure that we'll do it. And there's really not a place in here for that. It's more of an annual report that would be conducted. That it would be recorded through the illegal open dump part of the annual report. So I told Bruce I didn't feel like that it belonged in here. If something would come in that change it, then we could amend the 5-year plan if it was necessary to accommodate anything that we see if we was to do the Robinson wrecking cleanup. It would, the Robinson wrecking, and do people know what we're talking about as far as Robinson wrecking?
No,
It is an old solid waste or construction and demolition facility that went belly up on Campground Road. There's a large amount of debris. It's all inert. It's not really causing any issues, but eventually we would like to get it cleaned up. We had some higher priority illegal open dumps to clean up. One was the Garland Avenue, which took us 3 years and about $500,000. The Valley Sanitation Transfer Station, which cost us about $450,000. I would anticipate Robinson wrecking probably would be about a $750,000 cleanup and take probably at least 3 to 4 years to complete.
who owns the land?
I believe that it's in the Mr. Robinson's name. He's passed away, and I think the bank doesn't want it, so it's just sitting there.
Does it have any
Nothing going
market
on.
value if it were cleaned up?
Maybe. Hard to say.
Are we getting ahead of this problem at all? Like, are the other existing facilities bonded in some way to protect us from this kind of problem going on indefinitely?
There isn't any requirement in ordinance that would require bonding for that type of facility. If there's, the host agreement had some bonding requirements in it, but we don't have that anymore. And I don't know if there's any state requirements for bonds for those types of facilities.
Does Metro have the authority to adopt such a thing?
I would have to get with the county attorney on that. I'm assuming that if we would put it into ordinance, yes, it would, but I don't know that for sure.
Well, I would like to nominate that we go to the 109 board and propose that we work on that, because it's awfully irritating that we're spending all this money to clean up something that the public shouldn't be having to clean up. And, we've got to try to get ahead of it, I think.
I agree with you. The funding for the cleanup so far has come from an illegal open dump grant. Anything over 50,000 is 100% covered by the state. That fund is provided through I think it's $1.75 fee on every ton that goes into the landfill.
Which feels better, but it's still a matter of the public as a whole is underwriting bad businesses.
I 100% agree with you.
I don't like thinking about all the things we could do with that public money if we weren't spending it that way.
I agree. So with that, unless anybody has any other input or changes that we should make, I think that this is complete and ready for the next step.
Are there any questions from any of the committee members?
Do we need to take a vote on anything?
If there are no other questions or comments, I would like to entertain a motion to vote on this to send it to the 109 board for their review and consideration.
I'll make the motion.
Motion.
I'll second.
Second by Sarah Lynn.
No?
It was Kim.
Oh, okay, Kim, thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
I'm going to vote in favor of it, but I have some discomfort or qualms about the fact that it shows us as flatlining and that we are putting so much effort into reduction and it's not showing up here, but it's just a plan, so I'm voting for it.
With that said, Karen, or can we just do a roll call vote on this? Seeing how we can't see everyone, Pete?
Yeah, we can do a roll call. I can do that. Marie F. Yes. Pat Stone.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Ed.
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Sarah Lynn.
Yes?
Adam.
Yes.
And Bruce.
Yes. With that, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. And a big thank you to Pete, Karen, staff, and all the committee members who have worked tirelessly on this 5-year plan.
Amen.
Everyone's input is greatly appreciated. And let's see.
Somebody have construction going?
I do. I'm sorry. I have a roof leak.
I'm happy you're getting it fixed.
All right, on the agenda now, the next order of business, is there any public input? Hearing none, I would just like to ask the committee members or anyone on the call, is there any other comments, concerns, topics that you want to raise at this time? Okay. Announcements. There'll be a special 109 board meeting on Wednesday, October 12th at 5:30 to 7 p.m. It's anticipated there will be a public hearing on the solid waste management plan Monday, November 14th, 5:30 to 8 p.m. And another special 109 board meeting on Thursday, November 17th from 5:30 to 7 p.m.
Bruce, I'll go ahead and share that as long as that public hearing happens, it will be at the South Central Regional Library, the one by Jefferson Mall.
All right, thank you, Karen.
Could you repeat all those dates again? I'm sorry, they were a little fast.
Well, unless they're gonna send them out.
Certainly. The special 109 board meeting coming up next will be on October 12th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. There'll be a public hearing on the solid waste management plan Monday, November 14th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And the second special 109 board meeting on Thursday, November 17th from 5:30 to 7 p.m.
Karen, you said that meeting on November 14th is for the South Central Library?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Any other questions? Very well. I certainly would like to thank each and every one of you. It's been a lot of work, a lot of effort. I think we've got a decent product, and many thanks to Pete and staff. You guys have done most of the heavy lifting. So with it, nothing further,
I'll just add a special thanks to Bruce for doing all he's done. We really appreciate it. Thanks for leading.
Yeah, Bruce.
Well, thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion
moved.
to it.
Have a motion by Greg, second by Sarah Lynn.
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. Have a very safe,
Yeah.
enjoyable evening. Really appreciate your efforts.
Enjoy the weather. All right.
Thank you guys so much. I know this has been a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, but you had to do the hard part, so we can't complain.
Well, I think it only improved everything that we put on that document. So I really do appreciate all the input and help. And Bruce, I appreciate you as the chair trying to guide us through this.
Herding cats.
And I'm glad it's done.
I would recommend to everyone, anybody who has issues, questions, comments regarding the plan, advise them of the, public meeting or the public hearing, where there'd be more than have the opportunity to share their concerns. All
Will
right.
y'all send out meeting notices for us, please, for the calendar? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, everyone have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.